Right, so for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should the nurses' strike be declared illegal? Well, joining me now, Henry Bolton, International Secretary, of Border Control expert, Denis MacShane, former Labour Minister for Europe, Andrew Eborn, a lawyer, and Julia Taylor, a psychiatric nurse. Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
Yes.
What is the legality of striking? Can they strike like this? It's
very, very simple, and there are very strict rules and regulations about what happens about strikes. It can only happen if a majority of union members agree via an organised vote, and basically the strict rules, it must be a postal ballot, and details must be given at least 14 days in advance. And what happens is that particular ballot relates to a time limit, and once that happens, it's 6 months to undertake any action approved by that ballot. And it's very simple. You calculate the number of days. The particular strike ballot action relates to a closed on midday on the 2nd of November 2022, which means that this mandate finished at midnight on the 1st of May. So it's not a question of should it be right and the rights and wrongs of the strike and so on and so forth. That is what the law says. And there is, in fact, an argument that it could go even further, that if the notice is incorrect, which talks about the period from the 30th of April to the 2nd of May, that whole notice could be incorrect. And they could say actually, you can't even do it on the 30th of April or indeed on the 1st of May.
So what happens if they strike anyway?
Well, what happens, it then becomes illegal, and they no longer get the protection that they would have under relevant laws, which means they would be in breach of their contracts and they could be dismissed. They're also, if a relevant injunction is obtained, then they could be in contempt of court and all sorts of things there. It's interesting that Pat Cullen said they would never do anything illegal. So if they do lose the court action, which I suspect would be a very interesting proposition if they didn't, then they would be in all sorts of problems. So I think that's the position. And as I say, it's not about the rights and wrongs of the strike, it's about what the law says.
Julia Taylor, what do you think about this? I mean, they could be breaking the law. If perhaps the strikes are seen as illegal, would you carry on striking or would you go back to work?
Personally, no, I wouldn't. Only because I wouldn't want to be dismissed. I doubt very much.
You wouldn't carry on striking?
I wouldn't personally, because I wouldn't want to be the chance of being dismissed. I do think it's grossly unfair because surely they gave us a pay offer and we said, no, we're not, well, not we, the RCN said, no, we're not going to accept that pay offer. We want more because if we don't get more, we're not going to have any NHS anymore in reality. Surely that should count as we've wanted to strike. Would that not be the case? Should it not be the case? If they do that, I think we'll just have another ballot and we'll strike again, or the RCN rather, will strike again at a different time. Yeah. I can't see Pat Cullen actually breaking the law because she won't. I can't imagine she'll do that because we could end up in lots of trouble. There'll be a lot of anger about this, I would imagine, throughout the NHS. Sorry.
What about all the patients? I mean, where are the nurses? I mean, like 35% is a lot to ask. Where are the nurses thinking that the money is going to come from? How do they think genuinely that this is going to happen? I'm going to come to Henry and then I'm going to come back to you, Julie. But Henry, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think this is a matter of law, isn't it? It should at the moment be kept away from politics. On the one side, there is the nurses' position on this, and the National College of Nursing approach in terms of their pay and demands, Royal College of Nursing, their demands in terms of pay and conditions. But this is a legal thing, as Andrew said earlier. It is a simple matter of law as to whether or not this strike that's been called is actually within the time period, and therefore whether it's legal or not. If it's not legal, then I think the leadership of the Royal College of Nursing actually has some answers to provide its membership with. And of course, they'll have to abandon the strike unless they want to break the law. But on the other hand, I forget her name, the lady who was just speaking, Julia. I think she's also correct in saying that if that's the case, then they will simply have another ballot and they will strike at another point in time.
Dennis, I'm going to come to Dennis.
There is the moral question as to whether or not that's right or not.
Can I come to Denis, please? OK, so hang on, wait. With the morality of this, I mean,
well, morality. One thing, common sense is quite useful for nurses. And common sense is an essential quality that every minister should have. Yes, by one day, somebody miscalculated a bit, and if they want to have another ballot, if Steve Barclay really thinks he and Rishi Sunak benefits from The third ballot, and the nurses, I can tell you, because I've been through this myself a lot in the time, will vote even more strongly in favour of another strike.
But,
Steve,
Sophia, but that's a matter of law, isn't it? Not what the benefit is.
Look, if it's a matter of law, any nurse can take the RCN to court. It doesn't have to be a big bully boy minister like Barclay. You won't even talk to them. You refer to 35%, Henry. That's actually what the junior doctors
That was
want.
me that said that.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I mean, since 2010, we know that doctors' pay has fallen by 35%.
Yeah, but hold on.
And
No.
MPs have voted
I'm going to
themselves
stop there.
at
Can we
32%.
stop there, Nana? Because, look, Julia, I want to come to you. Do you not, like, everybody, like, if I compare what the pay was, say, in 2009, some of the jobs that I would do, I'm even being paid less than I would have been then. Can the nurses not understand that although their wages have slipped down, loads of people, it's a universal thing, and actually they really need to come to the table and get on with this. Otherwise, there's going to be a backlog and in the end, we're all going to look at the NHS and say, forget it, we're not going to have it that way. I mean, are you not risking the NHS?
No, and I get quite angry when people say that. No offence to you, Nana, but
Right.
we're striking because we want to save the NHS, because we're not getting the nurses' numbers that we need. Therefore, we're paying private nurses to come in and do the job we're doing. They're getting 3 times more than us, and we're working with them and showing them what to do. There's loads of ways we could get the money. Look at the water companies, the sewage they're spewing out, and they're getting billions and billions in profits. Look at the bankers, we could take tax some of them. Why are we paying reparations to other countries for slavery? Well, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy.
But isn't this about
the money
patient
isn't
care?
worked out well.
What about the patients? What about the patients?
That's why we're doing it.
Andrew, what about the patients?
I know you're absolutely right. Under the Trade Union and Labour Relations Act, there's a legal obligation to make sure that the strikes do not endanger life. And I would absolutely beg that question. You have to look at the patient care. Whilst I understand and have some sympathy for people raising about money, and it's across the board. Barristers went out on strike there because crime doesn't pay. You know, the junior barristers, they were earning less than £12,000 in the first 3 years. It's important to shine a spotlight. But Nana makes a great point. You've got to work out where the money is coming from. And we're basically muddling 2 arguments. One is this legal? The answer is no, it's not, because it's timed out. Work out then about the moral and the other aspects and make sure that complies.
Well, listen, thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. That's Andrew Eborn, he's a lawyer. Julia Taylor, thank you very much to the Psychiatric. Nurse, also Denis MacShane, former Labour Minister for Europe, and Henry Bolton, International Security and Border Control expert. Thank you so much. Well, if you just joined me, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. After the break, we will continue with our great British debate. And I'm asking, should the nurses' strike be deemed illegal? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also political commentator Sam Dowler. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.